No Name is the sternest challenge for the mountain men, here on BBC Two in half an hour.
Tonight's Top Gear, a Lexus with everything. Why some people will pay a fortune for the right plate. And it's Beatles versus Beach Boys, only with cars.
The USA. Things happen in a real hurry here. Modern America has only been around for 213 years. And the White House has only just celebrated its 200th anniversary. My local corner shop is older than that. To cut a long story short, they've come a long way in a short time. This is an intensely proud country, but they can't afford to get too wrapped up in history. They haven't got very much of it.
Back in Europe, we're obsessed with history. Take luxury cars. We want them to have a bloodline longer than a royal family. We buy Bentleys and Mercs and BMWs, cars oozing heritage from every sprocket. After all, past means class, doesn't it?
Or does it? In America, buyers couldn't care less about all that heritage guff. In fact, they couldn't give a monkey's.
Despite a complete lack of history, the upstart Lexus has stormed the sales charts. No one cares that they're not descended from the Habsburgs, they just love them.
The average American, I think, looks at what value you get for your money. And I think that the Lexus is good value for money.
Some of the other luxury cars, I think, have a tendency to elicit the snob factor.
It is a man magnet.
This particular car, yeah.
It is. I do get a lot of looks. That's not the reason why I drive it, but it does draw a lot of attention to itself.
These seats are just better, and it just drives smoother than other cars.
Luckily, there's a Jaguar right behind us here. Would you not rather have all the history and the heritage and the sheer sex appeal that you get with a Jag?
Do you really want to know?
It looks good too. Right. And I look good in it.
So, many satisfied customers, but is Lexus sexy? No, it's a prestige player in need of genuine glamour. And here it is, the £51,000 SC 430. Its Greek designer lived on the French Riviera, researching luxury for a Japanese car that Americans would love. It's meant to look like a yacht. Is that a good thing or not? You know, I just can't decide.
While I try to make up my mind, allow the good ship Lexus to entertain you with its #1 party trick. No. Not its famous Tom Jones karaoke impression. This.
Remind you of anything? Lexus has copped a fair few ideas off the Germans along the way, and now its brash new coupe has come over all Mercedes SLK. It's still impressive, if not desperately original. But now that it's transformed itself into a rakish roadster, it'll look much sharper, and I'll love it.
Nah, I'm still not sure about it, to be honest.
Maybe driving it will clear up this confusion. Is the SC 430 a proper sports car? Or will it be man overboard at the first glimpse of a corner? Will it handle like a tugboat in a tidal wave? Where have I put my life jacket?
Well, if we keep this nautical theme going for a while, and why not, I can tell you that the Lexus does a passable impression of a powerboat. Its engineering pedigree is impeccable, and really, you can't go too far wrong with a 4.3-litre, 290 brake horsepower V8 engine. Not only is it capable of launching itself to 60 miles an hour in about 6 seconds, it emits the most fantastically throaty muscle car growl as it does so. What a fabulous engine!
And so solid, so sturdy. Comfort, security and build quality are Lexus core values, but is it all chromed mouth and no trousers?
Actually, its trousers are pretty well tailored too. Okay, so it's a bit of a porker, tipping the scales at about twice the weight of a Lotus Elise, but its speed-sensitive power steering system is perfectly calibrated. And you can have serious fun with a very, very nicely set up rear-wheel drive chassis. Forget for a minute that slightly iffy Cary Grant, Audrey Hepburn image. There's real substance beneath the glamour.
A glorious 5-speed Autobox ensures effortless wafting, and despite huge wheels and tyres, the suspension beats the road into submission long before ridges and ruts are allowed to disturb your derriere.
Lavish armchairs offer further isolation, as well as a splendid viewing platform for a dashboard that is so ridiculously upper class, it's almost enough to turn me into a card-carrying communist. With vast tracts of equatorial rainforest perishing on a daily basis, it was inevitable, I suppose, that one or two planks would end up in here.
All this wood does a Tracy Island-style job of disguising the SC430's Thunderbirds-like array of gadgets. Standard equipment, it would be easier to list what it doesn't have. The attention to detail is fanatical, the instruments immaculately laid out, and the quality awesome, although the back seats are a curious joke. And as for the wood, why must more trees die? Why? But let's not get too morbid about this. I'll tell you why. Because wood equals luxury, and luxury equals Lexus. Who cares if there's a cracking sports coupe underneath all the glitz? The SC430 is a car for the planet's premier posers. A great place from which to see the world, but an even better one to let the world see you.
It's a lovely car, the SC430, but just a bit too rich for my blood. This is a car for brash high rollers who've got bored of the Jaguar XK8 or the Mercedes SL, and just the ticket for whisking off down to Monaco for a long weekend at the roulette wheel. Me? Pfft, you must be joking, I've never even done a lottery scratch card. This is Jason Barlow for Top Gear, walking home.
It seems downsizing is still the buzzword. Well, at least it is at Rover. This 25 is already on the small side, and now it's got an even smaller engine. This is the Rover 25 1.1. It's a big job for the 75 brake horsepower motor to pull this body along, although it is one of the most powerful 1100s you can buy. Rover's renowned K-Series engine is a sweet and rev-happy one. 13.5 seconds to 60 is hardly astonishing, though this car will be used primarily for town use, so it's not a major setback. A decent motorway speed can be maintained once you've wound her up. Better news here. A nose borrowed from the 75 lifts the looks of the 25 above its humdrum Super Mini competition. The interior is a quality item and feels as though it's come from a class above. As the 25 is the biggest car in its class, you'd expect plenty of space. And that's exactly what you get. There's enough room for 4 to travel in comfort, and the boot will take all their luggage. The seats split and fold for an extra bit of practicality. When Rover launched the 25 almost 2 years ago, they gave every model the sports suspension from the old 200 VI, and it does ride well, though it feels a big, heavy car. It's predictably stable enough through the corners, but it does lack the agility of the best. At £8,495, the 25 is a bit of a bargain, but the spec is pretty Spartan. You do get power-assisted steering and an airbag, but alongside the smaller Renault Clio, it is a bit of a skinflint, and it's not as much fun to drive as a Fiesta. The Skoda Fabia offers nearly as much space and more equipment for similar money. But if you want something with a touch of class and need a big boot, then the Rover makes a strong case for itself. So the Top Gear verdict on the Rover 25 1.1i-E is a slightly underpowered 6 out of 10.
Still to come on Top Gear, culture clash, MGB versus Mustang. And over the top with Overfinch, the ultimate conversion kit.
Time for a quick history lesson. Cast your mind back to 1967. When the Americans were napalming Vietnam, we were tiptoeing around our first foot and mouth crisis. A state of affairs which sums up the two countries rather well. While the Americans are big, bold and brash, we're a bit more peculiar. Want further proof? Well, keep 1967 in your head and consider what each country's car industry was pumping out. In the States, everybody wanted a piece of the Ford Mustang. In Britain, people queued patiently to buy an MGB. And who'd have thought that after 7 presidents and 6 prime ministers, we'd still be clamouring after both of them?
You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off you. You'd be like heaven to touch. I wanna hold you so much. At long last, love has arrived, and I thank God I'm alive. You're just too good to.
You know, I'm so chuffed that something so quintessentially British was once the world's most popular sports car. And don't worry, because buying one nowadays doesn't mean moss and plants in the windowsills and rust held together by paint. You see, an MGB makes a very sensible proposition indeed. It'll do 30 miles to the gallon, can be insured for pennies, and if it's a pre-73 car, will be road tax exempt. But it's not all good news, because rust is the absolute scourge of MGs and has sent many to the scrapyard. It's imperative you poke around all over your potential pride and joy to check for rot. On the plus side, parts are cheap and plentiful. You can even buy a complete new body shell. Even if you've got just a smattering of mechanical knowledge, you'll probably be able to do some basic maintenance yourself. This 1.8 litre engine doesn't have too many inherent problems with it, but you've got to remember, this is the clotted cream of the two-seater world. If you want to lick performance envelopes, you'd better look elsewhere. Reliable runners start at £5,000, and if you're after something a bit shinier, you can spend up to 12. Our favourite is the post-67 Mark II with the all-synchromesh gearbox, but avoid anything built after 1974. The rubber bumpers ruin the looks, and the higher ride height ruined the handling. And it wasn't just us Brits that lapped up the MGB. The Yanks loved it too.
Something different, something exciting. That's what made MG the sports car America loved first.
And the car they loved second was one of their own. The Ford Mustang. From a time of legendary American excess, this was the global showboat which defined an era. This is a 1967 model, but its age is about the only thing it's got in common with the MG.
If you're going to San Francisco, be sure to wear some flowers in your hair. If you're going to San Francisco.
The thing is, there aren't many of these knocking about on the road, which is a great starting point for anyone after value for money. But like the MG, they've been around for a while, and there are plenty of ropey examples.
Your first priority is, if you're thinking of buying any American car, is to join the appropriate owners club. They will put you in the direction of cars for sale, things to look for. They'll probably even put you in touch with somebody that will go with you, not knowledgeable about the car.
Car from 1967, if the steering wheel falls off or something like that, where am I going to get a new one?
The specialists in Mustangs throughout the UK, probably a dozen or even more. They all have regular service items in stock, like filters, points, plugs, disc brake pads and such like. If you wanted something that's not so regularly required, you'd probably have to get it imported from the States. a lot of the parts are cheaper than what you'd pay to restore an MGB or a Morris Minor.
And that's a big V8 in there. I mean, is it pretty juicy as well?
You can get 20 to 25 if you drive it economically minded.
And what's it like getting it MOT'd? I mean, have you got to go to a special place where people know what the score is? Or?
No, just take it to your garage on down the road.
Okay, so you're fairly happy with it?
Yes.
Going to sell it?
No.
Going to get nothing? But you know what? I can see why. For an old, very agreeable. You've got lots of chrome, all these dials here. It's a 3-speed automatic and power steering. The thing is, I'm not really into American things, but I love this car. This car is cool. To be honest, it's making me feel a little bit silly. And listen to this. Oh, quality. Mustangs come in all shapes and sizes. There's something for everyone, with prices surprisingly similar to the MG. £5 will get you respectability, and a show winner could be yours for round 12. But do yourself a favour. Make sure you steer clear of the puny 6-cylinder and instead go for the V8. You can't get a cool MG anymore, and we'll have to see what the next batch are like later this summer. As for the Americans, well, they swapped style for supersizing years ago. Let's face it, old cars are generally rubbish, but these two, from an era lost forever, are most certainly not.
Top Gear is always trying to save you money, and we need your help because in a few weeks' time the programme will be all about value. We're looking for people in 3 distinct categories. If you're about to buy your first ever brand new car on a budget of around £10,000, give us a call. If you're looking to swap your saloon car for a supercar worth £20,000, we want to hear from you. And if you want 7 seats but only have a few grand to spend, call us. The number is 0845 3000 425. That's 0845 3000 425. Calls are charged at local rates, and remember, we want people genuinely looking for cars, and you must be ready to buy in the next few weeks. And don't worry, if you miss that number, we'll be giving it out again at the end of the show.
Coming up on Top Gear, stately home improvements, building the ultimate Range Rover. Before that, the Top Gear Autobiography.
There have been various permutations of numbers and letters ever since.
This is the first number plate I had on the very first car I had, which was a new Austin A40 in 1963. I just think they're lucky for me. Things that divide by 3, 6 and 9, that seems to be my lucky numbers. In 1983, I wanted to transfer it to my latest car, which was a Peugeot 305, having kept the A40 for 20 years with the intention of putting it on my next car. In 1989, I had to transfer it to a Ford Escort, which I absolutely hated, and then I transferred it to a Citroën BX. And now it's on my latest new car, the Citroën Santia. I wouldn't like to part with it after it's been with me nearly 40 years.
My
name's Steve Orty. I bought this registration number in July 1998. I didn't put the registration number onto this car until July 1999. I actually had to buy the car to go with the registration plate. I've also got two other registrations. I've got H14 UTY, which spells Hi Orty, and I also bought C4 UTY for my wife Christine. In total, I spent £3,000 on 3 registration plates, which some people might think is a bit extravagant, but to me, it's priceless.
I bought 25th of December just before Christmas last year. I was after either 25th of December or December the 25th. As well as being very special to me, it's my birthday. The date means something to everyone, so it's nice. You can see people getting pleasure out of it and commenting on it when I drive along. It's good. It cost me £7,500 in the end. He's not for sale at the moment because well, there isn't another one like it about.
I love Aston Martins. I've always wanted to have one, and when I was able to afford one, I thought I'd love to have something that enhanced the car, that made it a bit more special. And for 5 years, I tried to get what I was looking for. And about 3-4 months ago, I was very fortunate that suddenly it became available. I went to the DVLA auction, and I managed to purchase my number, A5TON. I paid about $75,000 for it, but I have to say that I thought it was going to cost me at least $100,000. And whatever it cost, I was determined to get it.
The Range Rover, the epitome of the upper-class county set, and as stylish a cross-country machine as you could ever wish to buy. Yes, you can get a Mercedes M-Class that's £20,000 cheaper and will get you to 60 faster. But it's just not British. Nor, of course, technically is the Range Rover, since Ford bagged this prestige slice of the Rover empire when BMW flogged it off. But we'll forget that for the moment. This is the top-of-the-range Vogue model. And you're sitting in upper class from the word go, with your classic command driving position. You're surrounded by leather and wood, or at least something that looks like wood. There are buttons all over the steering wheel, buttons all over the dash, sat-nav, aircon. It's luxury all the way. But there is one drawback with the Range Rover, and it's not just that 50 grand price tag. It doesn't like going round corners. It's not that it doesn't grip reasonably well, it just, well, rolls a lot. But help is at hand. Overfinch is a company that's been modifying Range Rovers for over 25 years. And for £2,103, they'll tweak your suspension to greatly reduce that roll. Or for about £9,000, they'll get rid of it completely. Well, almost. Overfinch call this their ART, Active Ride Technology. And look, no springs. In fact, no dampers or anti-roll bars either. So let's see if it works. At a steady 45 miles an hour in an emergency avoidance simulation, it's clear that the Overfinch stays smooth while the Range Rover begins to flounder. And at 50, it's even clearer, with the standard model unable to complete the course without having to slow down. Overfinch have engaged a design team with previous experience on Lotus Grand Prix cars during the 80s, when these hydro-pneumatic systems were all the rage, and in so doing, they appear to have defied the laws of physics. But does the loss of body roll ruin its road manners? Well, yes and no. With less roll, the Overfinch is far more comfortable to drive around twisting lanes and urban jungles. But when it comes to hitting potholes, whilst the standard car wobbles through it like a nice soft jelly. The Overfinch sends shockwaves jarring through the cabin. But given the choice, I'd rather be safer on motorways than more comfortable on mud tracks. Doubtless the off-roading capabilities of the Range Rover have been slightly compromised. But then, come on, who's going to do any serious off-roading in a limo like this? So the suspension works, but Overfinch haven't stopped there. For starters, they've sorted out that little problem with the Mercedes by ripping out the 4.6-litre Rover V8 and sticking in a 6.3-litre Chevy V8. That'll be another £19,851, please, sir. And they've made a few changes on the inside as well. Got your checkbook ready? If your calculators failed to keep pace, Overfinch will save you the trouble by offering you this special limited edition silver anniversary model with all those options on it and a few more besides for a cool £85,000. Whilst the 400 horsepower the Chevy produces sounds impressive, you have to remember it's got 2 tons to push round. And it really doesn't feel like it can reach 60 in the 6.6 seconds that they say it can. The brakes, on the other hand, are really impressive. It's got a nice solid pedal, which means you do need a fair bit of muscle to make them work. But hit them hard, and from 70 miles an hour, they'll stop you a full 2 car lengths shorter. And as for all the interior tweaks, well, I'm afraid it's all far too fussy for me. In fact, I actually prefer the standard model. Of course, you don't have to start with a new Range Rover. All these modifications can be done on any model up to 7 years old. Overall, it has to be said the Overfinch is a bit over the top. But if I was a Range Rover owner, I'd certainly look to be reducing some of that roll, and I'd have those extra brakes. But as for the extra power, I think I'd rather spend the money on a Lotus Elise.
Next week on Top Gear, Ford badge Land Rover looks, the new Maverick. Gassing up our guide to the strange new world of LPG. And the Top Gear auction report. What am I bid? It was a